Dear friends, welcome to the Wednesday Word on Wednesday the 31st of January. I wonder if you've heard of Ayaan Hirsi Ali. If not, let me tell you about her. Ayaan grew up in Somalia and became a committed member of the Muslim Brotherhood in Kenya. When she was 23, she fled to the Netherlands to escape a forced marriage, and she received asylum. After the September 11th attacks on New York, she became disillusioned with Islam. She renounced her faith and she became an atheist. She was elected a member of the Dutch Parliament and she became an outspoken critic of the Islamic faith. Because of opposition to her controversial views, she was eventually forced to leave Parliament and moved to the United States. And she became a central figure in the New Atheism movement. She was friends with Richard Dawkins and with Christopher Hitchens, who's described Ayaan as the most important intellectual probably ever to come out of Africa. But in November 2023, she announced her conversion to Christianity in an article on the Unheard website. I put a link to that in the Wednesday Word, and I've recently also watched an interview with Ayaan on the same website, where she speaks more personally about her journey to faith. But that's behind a paywall, so I'm going to summarise her story. Ayaan says in the interview, "I left the world of faith, of genital cutting and forced marriage, for the world of reason and sexual emancipation. After making this voyage, I know that one of those two worlds is simply better than the other." Well, her atheist friends said that the world she left was the product of religious darkness and intolerance, and that embracing Christianity was just as bad as her former life in Islam. But she says that the things that she values most, reason, respect for women, liberalism, socialism, scientific inquiry, universities, and tolerance, are not products of the Enlightenment, but of our Judeo-Christian heritage. A number of people, including Richard Dawkins, have cast doubt on Ayaan's conversion, saying that she's become a Christian to resist the cultural collapse of the West, rather than because of a personal journey of faith. Well, in this interview, she responds to her critics. She was at a meeting of the Atheist Association in Australia in 2010. And outside the auditorium, there were a large number of Islamic protesters with placards that said, "Behead Ayaan Hirsi Ali," because of her opposition to Islam. And at that time, Ayaan was also very critical of Christianity, but rather than receiving death threats, a number of Christians wrote to her saying, "We pray for you." Now, this led her to begin to think that perhaps these two religions are not the same. Soon after that, she began to go through a personal crisis of fear, anxiety, and depression. She went to the best therapists that money could buy, who gave her an explanation of some of the things that she was struggling with, but not an answer. She continued to have a big spiritual hole or need. She tried to self-medicate with enough alcohol to sterilize a hospital, as she puts it. She read books on psychiatry and the brain, but nothing helped. Then a therapist who she was seeing in early 2023 said to her, "I think, Ayaan, you're spiritually bankrupt." At this point, she'd given up hope and she was in a place of darkness, and she thought, well, what the hell? I'm going to open myself up to that and see what you're talking about. They started talking about faith and belief in God. And Ayaan spoke about the God she hated, because the God that she grew up with, she said, was a horror show. The therapist said, well, if you had the power to make your own God, what would he do? And Ayaan found that she was describing Jesus Christ and Christianity. Rather than inventing yet another God, she started diving into that story. And so far, she likes that story. The more she looks into it, the more she feels she no longer has that void within her. She feels she's going somewhere. She admits she still has a great deal to learn about Christianity, and she concludes like this. I discover a little more at church each Sunday, but I've recognised in my own long journey through a wilderness of fear and self-doubt that there is a better way to manage the challenges of existence than either Islam or unbelief had to offer. Well, isn't that a wonderful story? We should definitely pray for her and for her protection, because many people will be very opposed to her conversion. I suspect we're going to hear a lot more about Ayaan in the future. God bless you today.